Hello, good peoples of the internet. Today I have Beverly Hathorn here from Strategic HR Consultants. Hi, Beverly. Nice to have you here.
Hello, Mike, and thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm excited to talk with you.
It's a pleasure to have you here, Beverly. Can you tell us what is it that you specialize in at Strategic HR Consultants?
Sure. I am an HR consultant. We are a full service HR consultancy with the exception of compensation and benefits. We don't offer services towards compensation and benefits, but we do recruiting. We help our clients attract and retain the right talent, not just talent, but the right talent to help move their organization forward. We specialize in performance development and improvement, and we like to work specifically with clients who have call centers with customer facing employees. We have extensive experience in the customer satisfaction arena, particularly coaching and developing customer satisfaction service teams and developing surveys, customer satisfaction initiatives, and that sort of work. We help our clients to produce better performing teams.
All right. And how do you do that?
We have a number of ways that we go about that. When it comes to recruiting, we have several different tools and processes that we use to help our clients to locate the right talent. Again, we don't want to just toss candidates at you. We want to help you locate the right talents. We have things like we do job benchmarking to make sure that we remove any bias from the job description. We have several different methods to seek talent, including passive recruiting methods. We have employee or candidate search testing that we do to make sure that your candidates have the specific talents that you need. And we do job searching, all the top search engines and the top search arenas, such as LinkedIn and Google and all the top search performance applications. And we just go out there and we help our clients. We get those people for you. We do the interviews. We have testing that we do to determine if the employee is a good fit for the job. And then once we do all the testing and we do the interviews, we do video interviews and we select the top candidates and then we present those to our clients for their selection, along with our recommendations.
That's fantastic. So now for the audience, before we started this recording, Beverly actually told me that she's going to share some secrets with us about how to find the right talent, how to increase employee engagement and productivity. So stay tuned to find out about these. And back to you, Beverly. What is the greatest challenge of the employers to attract and find the right type of employees?
I think sometimes employers look in the obvious and typical areas and they negate to check out certain areas that might not be that some better secrets. Sometimes employees may not actively be seeking. Sometimes you may have to go out and find candidates. So if you look at other than job boards and your regular search engines and career boards, if you just go out and you look at associations and community associations and different fairs and maybe the colleges and universities, if you look in places where people are taking different things like arts and crafts, or if you look in at community events where people gather, sometimes you can find people there that are actively seeking employment, just maybe a bit passive about it. Just being out there in your community and talking to people and getting to know people will definitely help you find candidates. And sometimes, if you go to different networking events that may not be based on job searches, just different community events, networking events, small business events, or entrepreneurial events, community events, boys and girls clubs where our parents are meeting with their kids, just be active in places that maybe the typical recruiter is not active. And you may come to find a different group of people.
That's fantastic. So you go outside the box a little bit, help them find
Mm,
candidates. Now,
yes.
once you find a potential candidate, or once the employer finds a potential candidate, how can they assure that they are right fit?
One of the things that we offer our clients is background checks. We do a series of background checks. We have everything from the simplest to the most extensive background checks that we can offer our clients. And then there's extensive testing that we offer our clients to make sure that can the candidate follow the simplest of directions to how does the candidate handle the most complex series of events that may occur. How do they think on their feet? How do they think in a crisis? How do they relate to their peers and who may be reporting to them? So, based on the job description, which we in most cases have benchmarked for our client to make sure again that we have removed any bias and that job description is a true job description. So, based on that job description, we will determine for our client which testing would be appropriate, and then we will move forward in that direction.
Wow, so you actually go through the job description with the client to make sure that they find the people that they actually need for the company to perform better. And then you have a method, basically, how to vet the candidates to make sure that they are actually the right fit. Now, when we talk about company culture, for example, how do you ensure that they fit in with the company culture as well as deliver the capabilities that are necessary to perform the tasks?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that question because company culture is one of my passions, if you will. Having worked in corporate America for so many years, I do understand the impact that the culture has upon an employee, a team, and how that employee and that team will perform. Employee engagement is very much reliant upon the company culture.
Mm.
And so we also, once again, we use various assessments. We have personality assessments that we can offer our clients to determine just what type of environment or culture this particular candidate may function best within. It doesn't necessarily mean that the results aren't good nor bad. They just give us a little insight into the candidate, into their personality, how they work best, how they accept information, how they like to disperse information, how they like to move about in their workday. Some people like to have a high level of information and they don't want a lot of detail. And to the contrary, some people need a lot of detail in order to feel secure on how they move in their job. Some organizations work based on that. Some sales organizations are very high powered and they move really fast. And you've got to make quick assessments and quick judgments. And you've got to be a people person and open and talkative. We have assessments that will help us identify those qualities in our candidates. We've got various personality assessments that we can offer our clients to help them determine if this particular candidate will be a good fit for the culture.
I appreciate that. Now, if there is a company, like maybe a medium-sized company who's not quite ready to use services such as yourselves, can you give them maybe 3 or 4 tips that they can do to assess a candidate and ensure that they are the right fit for their company's culture?
Absolutely. Let me tell you, Mike, nothing beats a good old fashioned conversation. Sit down, talk with them. When you get them on site, take them through the office, show them the people that they'll be working with. Some people, like if you take some of the more creative organizations where people wear jeans all day and there's foosball tables over here and there's lounge rooms and people are just working in these non-constricted areas. Some people might come in there and be like, yes, I found my people. But if you take a suit and tie person in that environment, they're going to think they're a little sloppy around here. Just take them into the environment, sit down and talk with them and show them where they'll be working and maybe introduce them to one, maybe 2 people that they would be working with and just see how they feel about it, see how they appear to fit in. Nothing beats a good old conversation.
That's really great advice on that working environment with jeans and the football table. It sounds like California.
Yes, it does.
All
Yeah.
right.
And some people can, there are some suit and tie people that can snatch that suit and tie off and really flexible and be like, yes, I can do this. This is not my normal, but I can do this. And some people are just really flexible like that. And that's good to find because sometimes organizational culture will be flexible depending on the leadership. I've been in cultures that were one way, that were staunchy and stiff, and then we got a new leader and it just did a complete 360. Sometimes people, but it's just good to take people in, have a conversation, sit down, let's talk. Let me show you how we do things around here, and then you'll get a good idea from how they accept that if they're going to fit in with that culture.
Thank you for that. Now, you mentioned something earlier about employee engagement, and
Yes.
I heard you say that the company culture has a huge impact on the employee engagement. So, in your experience, what typically limits an employee from performing well in their job or their position?
There's several different aspects that can impact employee engagement. And I'll just talk about a few of what, in my experience, I have deemed my top most harmful or helpful. So, one thing that I really think organizations really need to exhibit is empowerment. Employees need to feel empowered to do their job. At some point, there will come a time where they need to make decisions. I say to leaders, you've vetted these employees, you've hired them, you've taken them through the onboarding process, you've talked to them about your culture, your code of conduct, what you expect of them, you've trained them, and now you've put them out there to do their job. So let them go ahead and do their job. Take your hands off and let them do their job. When situations arise where they may need to make a decision, trust them to make that decision, and always give employees what I like to call the grace and space to make mistakes. If they step out and they make a decision and it doesn't work out well, then let's, one, view that as a training opportunity, and two, encourage the employee to continue to utilize that muscle, to utilize their capabilities to make decisions. Because if you chastise that employee, or if that employee has a bad experience by stepping out to make that decision, number one, you're going to discourage them. So now you've poured water on what could be a flame to help your organization grow. And number two, the people around that are watching that happen are also now discouraged. So one thing is just empowerment. And I could talk about that for the rest of the show, but that is one thing. Another thing I like to see is psychological safety. I like to see organizations allow employees to speak their thoughts and to give us their opinions, and let's have an opportunity to take advantage of their creativity and their innovation. In most cases, employees are out there talking to our customers, they're talking with our clients, they're utilizing the products and the processes that we've put in place. So they know what's working and what's not. They know what the customers are happy about. They know what the customers are not happy about. So when we have these meetings, whether they are virtual or in person, allow your employees the room to say, we've got this new product, but it's really not working well. And here's one of the things that I've experienced we may need to look at, or we may need to revisit. If you've got a room full of people who are just quietly sitting there listening, then maybe your culture doesn't allow space for people to speak up and talk about what they think. And you're missing, like I said, that great innovation and that great creativity. And if you've hired these people, once again, creativity and innovation was probably one of the things that you either experienced during the interview or one of the things that you want to grow and develop in them. And if you don't provide that area of psychological safety where they feel comfortable in speaking up, then you're missing out on that. And then the third thing that I have already touched on is be intentional about not micromanaging. Just let your people do what they do. give them the room to grow and offer development opportunities. Everybody wants to grow and learn and get promotions and make a better salary and move forward in their career. Not many people want to come to work every day, 8 hours, 10 hours, Monday through Friday, do the same thing their entire career and never move. Most people want to experience some sense of growth, provide training opportunities, provide opportunities for promotion, and talk to them about their goals and their career development goals and where they'd like to go, and then offer something towards those lines. And not just once a year doing your performance reviews. If you're only having them once a year, that's something else we need to talk about. But not just doing performance reviews, but as you're building those relationships with your employees, understand what their goals are so that maybe you can spot opportunities for them and alert them to opportunities that are coming about. All these things help your employees understand that they mean something to the company. They're not just another cog in the wheel. So that then they will then bring that extra to you. They won't just what I call do their 8 and hit the gate.
You're clearly very experienced and really knowledgeable about the subject, and I'm really glad you brought up micromanaging specifically, because first you mentioned empowerment, and of course the flip side of that coin is micromanagement, where people are working within very tight barriers and in a very controlled way. Now, I would like to play devil's advocate here a little bit, because I do talk to many employers, many business owners, and often they see employees as people who want to do as little as possible and who are lazy or want to get away with more breaks, just more time off, and they don't have their heart and soul in building their businesses. What do you have to say to the employers who feel this way?
There's being a certified HR professional, I had to take quite a few, as well as my experience in HR, I had to take quite a few courses in order to gain that certification. So I'm aware that there's a couple of different theories of employees. And I think many years ago, there was a professor, I think his name was Herzberg, and he came up with the theory X and the theory Y, which is what really you just explained, that some people think that most employees are lazy and need to be pushed and need to be watched. And other people think that most employees want to do a good job and want to be promoted and move forward. I happen to be of the latter theory. But if your team is of the prior theory, then let's talk about how you got there. What happened during your interview process? What happened during your onboarding? Does your onboarding include your expectations for employee growth and performance and development? What happens while your employees, maybe the first 6 months of being employed there? Are you building relationships? Are you talking to employees about performance? Or you didn't meet your numbers this month. You fell short this month. You didn't, or is it a conversation? How can I help you move forward? How can I help you? Are you struggling in this area? How can we work together to move you along? I would say those would be questions that I would have if you have an entire staff of people who are not interested in growth and development and are not interested in the organization. And I'm not saying that it's all the employer's fault. I'm just asking what's going on that, number one, let that go in the beginning and what's allowing that to go unchecked, and what can we do about that. That is one of the things that I help my clients do. Is I come in and I make an assessment, either an organizational assessment or a team assessment, to see what's really, peek under the hood and see what's really going on here and how can I help you make it better.
That's really beautiful how you describe that. And I think this is a common problem with new business owners who maybe just started their first businesses, startup owners who might not have the budget to attract top tier talent, and they just need people to get the job done. And then they end up in this kind of situation with limited or no management leadership skills at all. And
Yeah.
maybe unengaged employees or people who took the job in.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. And I would say be intentional about your hiring from the very beginning. And if you struggle, get someone like myself to help you with that. But be intentional about your hiring in the beginning because employee turnover, employee churn is expensive. It costs a lot of money to hire a person, train them, ramp them up in the job, and then have them leave or not perform and then replace them. And then there's that downtime in between that you're losing money and you're losing time. Meanwhile, you're overworking someone else who has to sit in for that. There's just a lot that goes on. So it's very expensive to continue to have that rotational wheel. Not only that, it's difficult to create a sustainable culture. If you've got like a revolving door of people coming and going, it's difficult to say, this is how we work together. One of the really great things about culture is how it's sustained, how it's created, the foundation that you lay. And then when people come in, they can stand on that as opposed to it always being wet cement that's always being created and always being built. I would say if you're struggling to create a sustainable workforce, then you can always engage someone to help you. If you're thinking my budget doesn't allow that, your budget can't continue with the other way.
The other way might hurt you more. Like on the long run, it will actually cost you way more having this revolving door. And like you said, all the challenges that come with offboarding and replacing and employing new
Yes,
processes.
especially Mike, if you're, as most businesses are, most businesses rely on customers. And if you're in a customer facing business, like maybe hospitality or retail or something similar, transportation, and happy, engaged employees deliver that level of service. They deliver that level of service and they create a level of service that makes happy, loyal customers. And again, losing customers and attracting new customers, money out the door. So when you've got employees that buy into your business and they're there for the business and they're delivering that level of service to your customers, feel that, then now you've got a loyal customer base that'll tell other people, family members and friends about your business. They're going to bring business to you. It's just worthwhile to build a happy, engaged workforce. It's important.
One of the biggest business fundamentals is that it's cheaper to retain a customer than to acquire a new one.
Yes, absolutely. It's definitely worthwhile. Your workforce is your most important resource. It is definitely your most important resource. Invest in it.
That's right. So,
Mhm.
what type of companies do you typically work with?
I typically work with hospitality companies, retail companies, customer facing companies that have contact centers. I do have a couple of companies that don't fall in line with that. I have a university as a client. I also have a furniture company as a client, but those are my typical clients that I usually work with. Again, I have worked in the customer service arena for probably 30 some years. Prior to that, I was in state and federal governments. So I've worked with customers and team building customer facing clients. And I am a certified project manager. So I've created customer satisfaction initiatives. I've led a business process outsourcing. I am a certified HR professional. I've worked in labor relations on the team that actually negotiates the contract between the union and the company. And I've managed the administration of the grievance process. So, with all that, I like to say I have a very good view of what the customers want. I know what the company wants, and I know what employees want. And so, I took all of that upon my retirement and I started Strategic HR Consultants.
That's a tremendous amount of experience right there that you have. And I think
Thank you.
any company would be lucky to have you on their team or in their corner to help them with their talent acquisition and their retention, employee engagement, and productivity. That's huge. So, what are the typical challenges of the companies that you work with?
Typically, you did mention one, new startups, new businesses, they just want to get people in the seats and they want to train them to answer the phones and take orders. You somewhat belittled that person right there because they do much more than that. Your customer facing workforce does much more than that. You're trusting them with another valuable resource, which is your customers and your products. And so you need them to do much more than that. Typically, my clients are not very intentional about hiring. They're not intentional about the research and the work that goes into hiring, and they have failed. And so I come along and have been able to help them understand how I can help them. Instead of starting from a good point, I'm starting from a negative. So that's usually, that kind of makes it a little difficult. There are opportunities to realign positions, I'll say. Maybe you might not be great for the position that you're in. Maybe we might need to consider another opportunity within the organization that you may be better suited for. And then also there's, the other alternative. So that is realigning the workforce and getting things to move in the direction where we want to go is probably the biggest challenge.
I have a question there. So, from the employee's perspective, right, if you feel
Mhm.
like I'm not quite happy with my job and I would like to try something, but I wouldn't necessarily want to switch companies, how open are employees usually to have this type of conversation where employee want to change roles within the company or train up to take on a different role?
Once again, this is a foundation that should have been created prior to my arrival. Establishing relationships will reveal these types of things. But if that has not happened, one thing we do is we have employee surveys, and those surveys are initiated and tallied, for lack of a better word, by a third party. And that will encourage employees to be transparent. And if we get a lot of, there's no job opportunities, there's no development opportunities, there's no movement, there's no promotional opportunities. I don't see anyone getting promoted and I'm not getting promoted. If we see a lot of that, then that's a conversation we need to have with leadership. And once we have that conversation with leadership, then we need to work to implement those opportunities. But first, we need to share that with the employees. Again, employees need to understand that they're more than just another cog in the wheel. We heard you. We heard you, and we're going to do something about what you said. You can have all these town halls are wonderful and all these team roundups. Oh, that's great. But let's talk one on one. Let's have leadership speak with employees, even maybe do skip levels to have employees just really talk to us about what their goals are and how we can help them achieve those goals. And maybe we can give them opportunities where they are. Maybe we can let them assume some temporary lead positions, barring any labor contractual obligations. But maybe we can let them sit in for their first level sometime, or maybe we can let them shadow people, or maybe we can even let them shadow people in other departments. Maybe we can give them something tangible that they can put their hands on right now so that they can see that we did hear them and give them a light at the end of the tunnel, something that they can see that they can hope for. I would say that's most important, that you act quickly and you give them something that they can actually see happening.
I think that's really wonderful advice. And again, it shows your tremendous experience and wisdom in this field because you must have seen several employees just leave or give up on their hopes of
Mhm.
change and then they just look elsewhere because if they got to the point where they expressed their discontent, they obviously went through a lot of deliberation before they got
Bef-
to work themselves up to the superiors.
I would say to employees as well, because I was an employee for a long time. And I changed jobs. If you have a right to expect growth and building on what you spent years in college or you spent years in training, or you have a right to expect development and growth in your field. You should expect your employer to take investment and interest in building you and helping you move. If you're never experiencing that, if that's not happening for you, then and think about that.
You have a right to expect. I love that. That's really powerful.
I'm not saying to anybody, go out, quit that job. If it's not, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, think about that. Maybe come to your leadership and have a frank, open discussion. Hopefully, it's in a culture where you feel some psychological safety, but come to them and say, hey, I've been here 3 years in the same position. I've not seen any growth, any development. And I can do this, I can do that. I'd like to try this, I'd like to try that. And if depending on the feedback that you get or what you, then you know what your next step may be.
This is such a valuable advice because there are a lot of gurus and motivational speakers out there who work people up and then tell them, go quit your job, like just start a new life. You're not happy. You got to burn it all down and start building over from scratch and like start your own business. Forget your, like, what are you doing to people? These people might have families, they might have a
Yes.
mortgage, whatever. I really don't like hearing this type of advice because yes, it might work out, but for the people it don't, they ruin their life based on your advice. So I would be really wary of these gurus. And what you're actually saying is real wisdom. You create real opportunities for people and take real chances based on their experience, their qualifications, and basically just have the confidence to go and say what you want.
Yes. And sometimes we think something's obvious that is not. Sometimes we think they should know that I want a promotion. If you come to work at 8:59 a.m. and you leave at 4:59 p.m. and you're only doing what's put before you in the day, there's no extra, you're not building out your position, you're not adding any additional value, then they may not know that you have promotion potential. You can have a perfect storm in some situations. You can have leadership that's not looking at you and building relationships, and you can have employees that aren't looking at leaders and building relationships, and nobody knows what the others want. So you can have those perfect storms sometime. Somebody's got to take a step forward and speak up at some point. So sometimes employees think that their employees should know. They know I have a degree in this, and why aren't they promoting me? But step up and show yourself and speak up for yourself. And before you take that alternative, which is once again going to be a disruption for you unless you've already got a signed, sealed, delivered, nice little package wrapped up, which some people do sometimes.
And on the flip side of that, again, just to play the devil's advocate here, there are the people who feel very entitled to get those promotions, yet they might have not necessarily earned it, deserve it. What about handling those type of employees?
Another thing that I would say during the year, do this especially if you only have performance discussions once a year. But during the year, document your achievements and what you do and how you've contributed to moving the organization forward, how you've contributed to moving your team forward, any projects that you led, any initiatives that you took on or implemented or brought to the forefront. Document those things. And then when you have those discussions, get your little binder, your little notebook, and bring that to the table. Hey, this is what I did. And money, dollar signs, speak for themselves. This is what I did, and it saved the company X amount of dollars. This is what I did, and it saved the team. I helped us improve this process, and we were able to save X amount of dollars. It's great if you can quantify and qualify your achievements in that manner. So if there's nothing in your binder, then work to get something in it. Work
That's
to put
great. So
something in it.
essentially, what you're saying is the employees should craft a sales pitch why they should be promoted, right? With their achievements and the testimonials, like why you should give me that
And
promotion or
that
position.
and that does something for the employee. You're like, hey, I've done a lot this year. A year is a long time. You can forget. By November, you may have forgotten your contribution in February. So document this stuff and then go back and look and say, I've really done a lot this year. So, yeah.
All right. This is gold. I think anybody who just listened, I think this is a tremendously valuable advice. And honestly, to get this kind of advice for free, this can mean thousands and thousands of dollars on their bank accounts by the end of next year if they implement this strategy. So this is
That's right.
golden. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Now, my
Yes.
final question to you. would be about productivity. You mentioned one thing about employee engagement. How do you increase productivity in an organization?
I would start by looking, and this is something that I do for my clients as well. I would start by looking at the efficiency and the effectiveness of your processes and your systems and the training and the knowledge of your employees. Sometimes our processes and systems need revamping. Sometimes they're just old. And it's difficult sometimes to start or implement or drop in new systems, the latest thing that's come along. You've got a training curve that has to occur. And sometimes if you get a new system, you've got to make changes in downstream or upstream, the way things flow. But sometimes it's worth it if it makes things more efficient and effective. And what about the knowledge and the skills and the training of your employees? Are they current on the latest technology? Again, invest in those people that you've put up front to represent your company. Make sure that they have access to the latest technology and make sure that they know that they're fluent. Not that they just know how to open and close it and click through it, but that they know all the little tips and tricks about it. And make sure that they work as a team to share all those little tips and tricks, because there's always going to be somebody on the team that's really technology savvy, and there's always going to be somebody on the team that's terrified of new technology. Let those two people meet and everything in between so that they all share that knowledge and they're all fluent in that new technology. And then that alone will do wonders for your productivity. And then there's other little things that we can do, but that's where I usually start. I look at the systems and the processes, and I look at the training and of the team.
And how often should a company review their systems, processes, and their trainings?
There's usually going to be a salesman to come around and say, hey, we got new stuff. Check it out. See if it can help you. And maybe there might be a financial investment. But again, this is your business and it's worth it. But definitely, if you start to see productivity fall, and then there's different metrics and different ways that you measure your productivity. But at least on maybe every 24 months, I would definitely just review your systems and just see if there's something new out there that you could benefit from.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Beverly, if people would like to work with you based on what they heard, where can they find you?
I have a website. It is customer measures with an S, customermeasures.com. You can reach me there. I have a contact form. You can fill that out and someone from my team will get in touch with you. Or you can email me directly at beverly@customermeasures.com and I'll get back with you very soon, usually within 48 hours.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Beverly. And as I know, you're also on LinkedIn and you have your own podcast as well, right?
Yes.
Where is your podcast at?
Yes, I'm also on LinkedIn at Beverly Hathorn, just Beverly Hathorn on LinkedIn. And my podcast is called Team Building Cultures. And I have guests and we talk about the cultures that we need to create to help our teams to thrive and grow.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Beverly. For all of you that are interested, we'll put those links below in the comment section or in the description of this video. And if you got value out of this, then please subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for our following interviews. Thank you, Beverly, and thank you all for listening. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Mike. This was wonderful. Thank you.